Fire in the Steppe is a historical novel by the Polish author Henryk Sienkiewicz, published in 1888. It is the third volume in a series known to Poles as the Trilogy, being preceded by With Fire and Sword and the Deluge. The novel's protagonist is Michał Wołodyjowski. Plot summary: Michał Wołodyjowski has retired to a monastery after the death of his wife Anna Borzbogati. At Częstochowa, Karlamp, an acquaintance, goes to see Henryk Sienkiewicz to get his help in persuading him to leave it. He and Zagloba make a journey to consult Jan, and it is finally Zagloba who offers to speak to Wołodyjowski. Making his way to Warsaw, Zagloba meets his old friend, Henryk Sienkiewicz, a Scot, who now resides in Warsaw after being adopted by a noble in Swiata in Courland, who offers him a bed. Taking place is the Diet to elect a new king, of which Prince Boguslav is a candidate, and Zagloba is determined to raise support against the traitor. Zagloba carries a letter from the primate to the monastery of Mons Regis. Michał is now known as Brother Józef and is persuaded to leave for the nation's sake and stays at Ketling's house. They are visited by Sobieski, the hetman, and a feast takes place and Michał receives a present of a cream-colored steed. Michał's sister, Mrs. Makowiecki, visits Warsaw and is invited to stay with Krystyna Droojowski and Barbara Jezorkowski, of whom her husband is the guardian. Michał is immediately attracted by Krysia, but Zagloba intends that Basia, who delights him, should be the little knight's. He teaches her fencing and she is disconcerted and embarrassed by his adeptness with the sword, for whom she develops a strong admiration. Adam Nowowiejski, a young cavalier, arrives on the scene and pays court to Basia, but she has nothing of it and rejects his eventual marriage proposal. Michał meets with Sobieski and is sent with letters to Roszczyc in Russia and the wilderness beyond. He says farewell to Krysia and an unspoken pact is made between them. Michał leaves and Ketling of Elgin returns to his house from Courland, and Krysia is immediately enchanted by his looks and manners. Zagloba implements his stratagem to set Ketling at Krysia in order to save his little hydluck, Basia, for Michał. Owing to her pact, Krysia resolves to enter a convent and Ketling vows to return to Scotland. The diet continues, and on the way back from Warsaw one evening, Zagloba and Basia encounter Wołodyjowski and his brother-in-law Makowiecki. Over time, Michał realizes that Krysia no longer loves him and agrees to give her up. However, on learning from Basia that it is Ketling for whom she feels affection, he falls into a rage and rushes off to kill him. Later, Ketling and Michał return, having resolved their differences as old friends, and Michał encountering Basia once more, and she reveals her love for the worthy cavalier. Summer of 1671 finds Michał in Sokół, Basia's paternal villages, happily married and running the estate as efficiently as he does his troops. He is commanded forward to build a stanitsa at Reptov, and Basia arrives with Zagloba to a rousing welcome from the troops. In the evenings, the officers discuss their experiences of the Turks and the periods of imprisonment. The time is spent crushing the independent detachments of robbers on both banks of the Dniester, ravishing the Polish and Moldavian sides. A Cossack band, under Zbaba, is wiped out, and Basia, who observes the conflict, is chased by some fleeing Cossacks and is helped by the young Lithuanian Tatar, Melhavich, who falls under her spell. Mrs. Boski arrives at Reptov with her daughter, Zofia, journeying to the Khan to pay her husband's ransom, and Michał offers to send letters to Piotrowicz to give to Roszczyc at Rashkov. Mr. Nowowiejski and his daughter, Eva, are also with the party going to Rashkov to be reunited with Adam, who ran away from the family home to join the army. Eva immediately recognizes Melhavich and then Nowowiejski, who calls him Mazia, and who raised him alongside his son. However, as the young Tartar is now an officer of the hetman and serving under Michael, his commandant, he is out of the old nobleman's clutches, and an old officer, Henryk Sienkiewicz, now recognizes him as Tugay Beyovich, Tugay Bey's son and so Prince. Azia reveals his plan, a treacherous one, to Bogusz to supposedly bring the Lithuanian Tatars over to the Hetmanskoes to fight against the Turk, but in fact to use these troops to attack the unsuspecting Poles. Basia resolves to reunite Eva and Azia and, speaking to the handsome Tartar, leaves him with the impression that it is she herself who is in love with him. Halim, and old Tartar, brings news to Azia, who reveals his plan to kidnap Basia. Bogusz travels swiftly from Reptov to his hetman, Sobieski, to inform him of Azia's plan, but it is rejected outright. It is now Christmas and old Novoveski is at last reunited with the repentant Adam, and the latter is also enchanted by the blue-eyed Zozia Boski. Adams leaves for Rashkov after his betrothal to Zozia. Michael agrees to allow Basia to accompany Eva to Rashkov under the protection of Azia and his Lithuanian Tatars. On the journey, Azia commands Halim to occupy Rashkov and attempts to seize Basia, who strikes him in the face with the ivory butt of her pistol. Fleeing back to Reptov as the Lithuanian Tatars slaughter the unsuspecting inhabitants of Rashkov by the bands of Krichinsky and Adjurovich. Azia slits Novoveski's throat, keeps Zozia Boski for himself and grants Eva to Adjurovich. Zozia, her mother and Eva all are sold off to harems in Turkey and are never seen or heard of again. After a terrible journey through the wilderness, and losing her horses to wolves and an icy river, Basia makes it back to the fortalice. She collapses exhausted in a fever, and Zagloba sends for a doctor from Kamenets who revives her from near death. Gorzinski, the commandant at Mohila, intercepts Azia's orders to his Tartars and kills the Mazovian infantry, as well as sending a message to Yampol, thus saving it from destruction. The Ketlings arrive at Reptov. Sobieski has appointed him commander of the artillery at Kamenets, and Basia resolves to remain with Michael at Kamenets as well. The Sultan is slowly gathering his army, and Michael writes to the hetman to grant a pardon to all robbers if they join the infantry. Sobieski commands him to defend Kamenets to the last. The Turks finally march from Adrianople, and Adam, now a much broken man, joins his friends at Reptov, and then leads an advance guard against the enemy's chambuls, crossing the Danube and advancing as far as Pruth. Adam's dragoons assault Azia's chambul and, capturing him, give him an agonizing death by drawing him on a sharpened stake. Basia and Zagloba join Michael at Kamenets, which is seething with preparations for its defense against the Turkish invasion. A council of war is held, joined by Bishop Lance-Koronsky, Mykolai Pototsky, Starosta of Podolia, Lance-Koronsky, Chamberlain of Podolia, Rivosky, Secretary of Podolia, and officers, and Michael gives them the courage required to defend the town. The Vasiklovskys cavalry dragoons slaughter the leading Janissaries at Cherniez, the remnants fleeing back across the Dniester River. Individual skirmishes now take place outside Kamenets, and Michael, riding on his Wallachian bay, kills Hamdi, a renowned pagan warrior. The vizier, sultan and Khan all arrive on the field of battle, and Michael is infuriated by a letter sent via an envoy, Yuritsa, on behalf of the town council seeking an armistice. A meeting takes place outside the castle's walls, and the Dog brothers' arrogant demands are roundly rejected. The main threat to the castle is from underground tunnels and mines. The town is also set on fire by Turkish cannon. Michael and Muchalski resolve to attack the Turkish tunnel being dug through the rock, and the mission is successful, except for the loss of Muchalski, the brave bowman, but he returns the next day dressed as a janissary. White flags are spotted from the old castle's battlements the next day and the town surrenders. A message is received that the troops must withdraw for the castle before evening and raise the white flag. The envoys, 3 commissioners, finally come and state that one of the conditions is for Kamenyez to go to the Sultan forever, who would turn it into the capital of his new province in Central Europe. As the Polish troops leave the castle, a mine explodes and kills Colonel Michał Wołodyjowski, the Hector of Kamenyez and first soldier of the Commonwealth. In the monastery of St. Stanislav, his body is interred in a lofty catafalque, with his leaden wooden coffins lying on top. Father Kamiński conducts the funeral service and Sobieski makes a grand entrance and kneels at the catafalque to pray for his soul. Epilogue. Sobieski makes camp at Hocken, with Grand Hetman Pats and Field Hetman Michael Kazimierz Radziwiłł, who take up position on the heights connecting Hocken with Gniez. A huge battle takes place after a bitterly freezing night of rain, storm and darkness. The two sides are evenly matched until the weight of the battle is transferred to the center. The Grand Hetman, assisted by the Voivode of Rust, sends in his hussars and the Tatar janissaries, led by Hussein, the white-bearded Kiraya, Lion of God, are finally vanquished on the Polish lancers, many of them dying in a rugged ravine at the opposite side of the camp. 2 old valiant knights, Motovidlo and the bowman Muchalski, are killed, along with Adam Nowoweski, who dies with a smile on his lips and calm serenity on his face. Cries of Vivat Johannes Victor ring out in the captured pagan camp of Hussein Pasha as a Thanksgiving Mass is celebrated by Sobieski and his victorious army. Major characters. Historical figures: John Sobieski, Michał Korybut Wisniawicki, Petro Doroshenko, Mikołaj Potocki, Kara Mustafa Pasha. Fictional characters: Michał Wołodyjowski, Ketling, Jan Onufry Zagloba, Adam Nowoweski, AZJA, Barbara Jeziorkowska, Krystyna Drożdżowska, EWA Nowoweska. Film Fire in the Steppe was adapted to the screen by Polish director Jerzy Hoffman in 1968 as Colonel Wołodyjowski. The film was also serialized on Polish television under the title The Adventures of Sir Michael.